Before we get into anything else, the first thing we need to cover is what is caffeine. Caffeine is naturally found in certain leaves, beans and fruits, and can be found in over 60 plants. The main form of caffeine you probably have is the coffee bean, which obviously creates coffee. It can also be made synthetically in labs and added to food, beverages and other things like that. Caffeine can also be found in foods like chocolate because cocoa beans contain caffeine. What does caffeine do? The main effect of caffeine is that it improves your reaction time and makes you more alert to your surroundings. It does this by blocking a molecule called adenosine from being released. Adenosine is a chemical that makes you feel sleepy and lethargic. Therefore, when you consume caffeine, it blocks the receptors of the adenosine, which makes your brain and body feel more alert and therefore increases your awareness. However, once these receptors begin to clear and the caffeine starts to wear off, you'll have all the previous adenosine that you have blocked, plus all the adenosine that has been building up while you have had the caffeine in your system, which when the caffeine is gone, it will cause you to have a caffeine crash and make you feel even more tired. When you ingest caffeine, and as long as your blood sugar is not too high, it will take around 5 minutes to 30 minutes for it to take effect and around 30 minutes to 60 minutes for it to reach its peak. Another thing that caffeine does is it reinforces the things that you do, e.g. the food that you eat and the drinks that you have. This is because caffeine is a reinforcer of the things you do. So if you have caffeine before you do something, then it will likely be that the thing that you do will feel more pleasurable and it reinforces you to do it again. It also increases dopamine in the brain, allowing improvement in mental clarity and allowing clearer thought. This is why caffeine can be used for both physical tasks and mental tasks. As well as this, it's also a diuretic, meaning it makes you get rid of any water and sodium. So when you're taking caffeine, it may be a good idea to have some form of salt or some electrolytes with it so that you are not depleting your water and salt contents. One downside to caffeine is it can make you feel jittery and fidget quite a lot. However, if you consume theanine with the caffeine, it should help to minimize this. You also want to make sure you're not consuming too much, as that will start to make you feel anxious. You have to play around with how much you're taking, and I'll cover how much to take later on in the video. Timings for caffeine. First thing when you wake up, you should not drink coffee or any form of caffeine because the adenosine, which is the sleepy molecule that when it builds up it makes you feel sleepy, this adenosine is still present when you wake up. So to make sure you can clear out the adenosine or get it as low as possible, wait 90 to 120 minutes after waking until you consume any caffeine, as this will allow you to clear out the adenosine left after sleeping. And then later in the day, it will be beneficial because you won't feel as tired. This is because you're not having the previous adenosine built up that's left over from your sleep that has been built up with the adenosine you've built up through the day. So you're feeling less tired once the caffeine clears. When you wake up, to clear the adenosine further, before you wait 90 to 120 minutes to consume caffeine, get some morning sunlight and do some exercise, like a walk or something out in the sun within 30 minutes of you waking up, as this helps increase cortisol early in the day, which consequently helps to clear the adenosine that has been left over from sleep. And this enables you to pretty much clear all the leftover adenosine, so that when you do consume your caffeine 90 to 120 minutes after you waking up, you're not going to be building up a ton of adenosine, which will cause you to have an afternoon crash. It is normal to have an afternoon crash, but by doing this, it will help to minimize the effects the crash will have on you. So when would you want to stop consuming caffeine? A rough guide is to stop consuming caffeine from around 8 to 12 hours before bed. This is because caffeine has around a 6-hour half-life. What this means is if you take 150 milligrams of caffeine at, say, 4 p.m, at 10 p.m, which is 6 hours later, you'll still have 75 milligrams of caffeine in your system. Also, caffeine has around a 12-hour quarter life, which means you'll still have around 37.5 milligrams of caffeine in your system when you're going to sleep. And even if you are able to fall asleep, it'll prevent you from being able to get into deep sleep, or it will just prevent you from falling asleep. What are the sources of caffeine you can have? If you want to feel more alert, you can have coffee, pre-workout energy drinks. They're all good for making you feel more alert. However, some energy drinks and pre-workouts have other stimulants, so if you don't want their effects, then you may want to avoid it. Another source of caffeine you can have is Yerba Mate tea, not smoked. This is a good source of caffeine. This helps with your satiety as it releases GLP-1, which makes you feel more full as it signals satiety to the brain and to the gut, which prevents you from having as strong urges to eat, which can help reduce the calories you eat and therefore it will help you to lose weight. The final thing that we will cover is the dosages for caffeine. It is important to mention that everyone's caffeine tolerance will be different based on how much caffeine they've drunk before, how much they weigh, because if you weigh more, you'd probably want to consume more, and how regular of a caffeine drinker you are. However, a rough number for a dosage is 1 to 3 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. So an example is if you weigh 80 kg, you want to be consuming roughly 80 to 240 milligrams of caffeine in a single sitting. You will find that if you're a regular caffeine consumer, your dosage will have to be on the higher end for you to get the effects, as you've built up an adaptance to the caffeine, so its effects are less. However, if you're new to caffeine and you don't drink it often, then it will be on the lower side, so around 80 to 120-ish. You want to play around with these numbers to see what makes you feel the best and doesn't make you feel jittery. If you want to decrease your caffeine and still get the maximum effects, then you might want to take a period off of drinking caffeine for around a week, as this will help to decrease your tolerance. You can also do a day on, day off approach where you have caffeine one day and not the other day. This also works well, as this is more manageable as well. That is the full guide to caffeine. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments and I'll get back to you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.